Greetings and welcome to Monster Legends for another special feeding episode. This time we're going to be feeding a Darkness Mythic who I recently acquired at a quest breeding. And this is Svart. And Svart, as I mentioned, is a Mythic. He's Darkness. He's also undead, part of the evil legions. He's also a villain. But he's also a quest monster, and he is part of the current birthday book. He has one closed ruin slot, which is better than two. So we're probably going to be investing some gems in him in the near future. So I have found a home for him, and I think he's going to enjoy it. He can hang out with Morgs. They're very similar to each other. Well, that was different. Okay, so where's the little guy there? Okay, this is someone we're going to rename. Alright, this is Svart. He is a Mythic. He is Darkness. He has an evolving trait. Let's take a look at it. At rank 0, he becomes immune to torture effects. This is very useful for a Mythic. Torture effects take a percentage of health off, so if you have a lot of health, it really doesn't help very much. Being immune to torture effects is a wonderful thing. At rank 1, he also gains hardening, which means he has an extra 20% chance to resist all negative status effects, so definitely worth a rank up there. At rank 3, he also gains a status cast for a personal cooldowns immunity, so you cannot activate his cooldowns. Very, very nice way to start a fight. Alright, let's look at his initial stats. His strength is really not very good at all, but that's not what he does. His life is kind of frail, not too terrific, but that's not what he does. Speed, that's what he does. So he's very fast, especially if you pump him up with speed. He's going to be going often. He's going to be going first, hopefully. Yeah, he's going to be hurting the other side. Now, this guy is technically labeled as control. I don't see him as control. I see him more as support. You'll see what I mean as we go on. Alright, so let's look at his initial skills. And remember, these are Mythics. These are not throwaways. Let's begin with Remember Me. Deals moderate dark damage to one enemy, applies minor blind to one enemy. Alright, now that is a 40 damage, but it's also a 0-0, which means it requires 0 stamina and 0 cooldown, which means he can always use it. You do activate his cooldowns, you take his stamina away, he can still use this. So there's a good argument for keeping it. Then we have With a Smile, because he's got a beautiful smile, doesn't he? Yes, he does. Deals low dark damage to all enemies. I do believe that was a 25%, and it is a 0 cooldown. He doesn't really have the strength to justify using that one, so I wouldn't even consider taking it. It's like that. Alright, and of course, his special skill, Ruby Shine. Deals moderate dark damage to all enemies, applies total blind and ignite to all enemies. Alright, ignition of course is a torture effect, very good one, does really good damage, shorter period of time but it does do more. Total blind is awesome. The individual who has it will miss whoever they're attempting to attack unless the target has guard down. Guard down is absolute. If you have guard down and someone tries to hit you, they're going to hit you. Other than that, Total blind is awesome. So putting that on the entire other party with an ignition, very, very nice. Svart was a very happy monster with a daughter whom he made laugh all the time. But one day, he got his face burned in a battle, and from that moment, his daughter was terrified of him. He had no choice but to leave her, but sometimes, at night, he uses his powers to draw a smile outside her window so that she remembers the happy times they spent together. Oh, that's very sad. That's very sad indeed. I mean, he should wear the mask. She shouldn't reject him. Very, very sad. Oh well, I guess that's why he became a villain and joined the Dark Legions. It's all her fault. Anyway, he's a little guy right now, but we need him to be a big guy. So, dude, do you like tomatoes? Because that's what I got. So let's get him up to his final form, and there he is. I mean, he's wearing the mask, it's no problem. He should wear the mask more often. Alright, let's get to the skills, because that is why we are all here. Starting at 7, I'm on fire. Removes all negative status effects from itself, applies true vision to itself. I do believe the Asta has that same one, but I have to take it for now, but I'm not going to be keeping that. The thing about this guy is he's got a lot of skills. You got to figure out what you want to do with him, right? So we're going to be talking about that later. All right, let's go to level 10. Another skill, Hestia Flame. Deals low special damage to one enemy, applies burn, ignition, and nightmares to one enemy. This is one of those skills that's going to give you some problems in picking his final ones, because that's actually pretty good. You really mess up one individual with that, and if you put that on, say, someone who's dodging group effects, yeah, that really messes up their day. 3 torture effects, ooh, that's kind of ugly. All right, so let's go all the way now to level 20. Another skill, Anonymous Gift. Deals low dark damage to all enemies, applies total damage reduction to all enemies, applies nightmares to all enemies. All right, I am going to put that there because I am going to be keeping that one. All right, so let's continue to level 25 and another skill, Mask Soul. Deals heavy special damage to one enemy, applies total blind and nightmares to one enemy. Yeah, that's one of those that's going to be a problem in the end. All right, I'm going to put that there for now. I have something special in mind for the first spot. All right, so let's continue to level 30. I'm on fire. Yeah, we're not going to keep that one. Nope. We're just going to continue to level 35. Soaked in Ethanol. Deals low fire damage to one enemy, applies ignite to one enemy, gives one extra turn to itself. Yeah, this is, what do you do about this, huh? Again, it's very similar to an Aztec skill, right? And he uses poison, but it's pretty much the same kind of a thing. And it's useful because you're going to hit somebody, you're going to give them ignition, but you're also going to get an extra turn. The thing about it is it's really hard to take this one, you know? You know what? For now, I'm just going to put it aside. We're going to talk about it a little bit later. I know, it's really hard not to take that one, but I mean, that's the kind of thing with his skills, isn't it? So let's just continue, because we are looking for something, and there it is. Burning Heck. The previous video that I discussed his skills in, I had to mark for language, so I would rather not do that, so I'm going to say Burning Heck. Deals moderate dark damage to all enemies, applies burn and blind to all enemies. All right, well, obviously that's going in the first spot. Now, this is considered to be his control. I have a big problem considering this to be control. Just blindness isn't really very good control. I see that more of a support thing where you're going to reduce their accuracy and you're going to give them burning. Because I don't think burning affects... No, burning does not affect accuracy in any way. So it's not like, for instance, Ilion, where he had blindness, he had daze, and then he had sunburn, where sunburn actually does decrease your accuracy. In this case, it's just blind. And a lot of individuals are going to be hitting with just blind. So it's a little hard to call that control, but I am definitely going to keep it. All right, so I think we've seen all the skills. So what we're going to do is we're just going to march on, and we're going to keep seeing that one, right? Actually, that's the True Vision one. We'll probably get that one and the extra turn one, right? Yep, that one right there. And we're going to keep going. We'll get to 60, and then we're going to figure out what we're going to do here. It's like I said, this guy is a little bit hard to pick skills for, you know? All right, so let's just back right out. And let's pop in here and take a look. All right, first of all, of the skills that I have here, I don't think there's any question about this one, right? Burning Heck, you're definitely going to take that one. I mean, even if it didn't have the blind, it's still got the burning and it's got the damage, so you're going to take it. And the blind just throws in some accuracy issues, right? All right, I'm going to skip down to this one, Anonymous Gift. Deals low dark damage to all enemies, applies total damage reduction, and it also gives nightmares. Now, that's not denial. That's more of protection. So I see that as more of a support thing. You're preventing your team from being physically damaged, but it's not going to block torture effects, you know, control effects, anything like that. Possession, nothing like that. You're just going to not get damage, the physical damage from the attacks, right? You'll still get the damage from the torture effects and such. So I don't really see that as control. I see that as support. So definitely keeping those. So it comes down to what about the other two? Now, it's important to remember you do need a single target skill for dealing with those individuals who dodge group effects. So I kind of like this one to have it around, right? It's kind of interesting here, kind of interesting indeed, because it's going to do all kinds of terrible things to one individual, right? Now, you can say, well, he does nightmares with this, and up here he does burning, but what about the individual, again, who is dodging group attacks? Well, you're going to give him all of them, right? So I kind of like this one. So holding on to it. It's only a 2-round cooldown also. Now, what about this one now? See, in my mind, there's 2 options here. I don't think soaked in ethanol really works for him. True, he doesn't have anything that's even a 1-round cooldown, but he's got a lot of 2s and he's got a couple of 3s based on the skills that I'm keeping here. Now, do I want this one? This one's good control. This is the only skill I think he actually has control with because it's total blind, right? And you throw the nightmares in. This nightmares doesn't have any, okay, it's not letting me look at the skill here. I don't think nightmares has any kind of accuracy debuff on it. I don't see this one working for him. I don't. I'm actually thinking in terms of this one. So I see it between this one and this one. This one is total blind, and that's a great thing. This one over here is a 0-0, which means he can use it anytime he wants. Masked Soul, if memory serves me correctly, is a 50 damage. That's this one over here. This one over here is a 40 damage. Now, Minor Blind, I think it's probably on like a 25% debuff in terms of accuracy. But it is a hit, and it's not a bad hit. It's funny, it's the second best damage hit across from Masked Soul. And of course, he's not going to do a lot, but it is something he can do. So I see it as a kind of a choice between these 2. And because of what I just said before, his cooldowns really aren't that big of a deal. I think I'm going to keep Masked Soul. If you get him to rank 3, and he's got the cooldown activation protection, that is just a no-brainer. You're going with Masked Soul. Remember me, you might want to take that if you're concerned about cooldown activation, right? Because that way, it doesn't really matter. Also, if you don't have stamina, it doesn't really matter. You can do that attack. I think for now, I'm going to stick with Masked Soul, though. The extra turn one, I would have to substitute it with this one, and I just don't want to do that. All right, so let's look at his his stats again at level 60. And as we see once again, his strength is not really very good, but then again, that's not what he does. He's got some messing with the other team, and he's got torture effects. He's not going to one-hit somebody to death, right? All right, and his life, again, it's like 18,500, really not very good at all. It's not terrible, but it's really not very good, right? I mean, I've seen worse. Let's put it that way. In the Mythics, definitely we've seen worse. And his speed is very good, among the best. So definitely somebody who's going to be going fast. And you kind of want him going fast. I mean, even though I don't see him as being really good control, he can do a lot of things to mess up the other team. So you want him doing as much as possible, that kind of thing. Yeah, the fact that he's also immune to torture effects means that he can stay alive too, even though his life isn't really very good. So definitely somebody who's very strong. All right, let's take a look at his skills, the ones that I selected, of course. Let's begin with Burn-In Heck. Deals moderate dark damage to all enemies, applies burn and blind to all enemies. Right, there's going to be like a reduction, 50% accuracy reduction, right? And yeah, I mean, they might miss. They might miss, they may not miss, that kind of thing. So in terms of like betting the farm on him, to protect your party, no. You could throw him in as a second one to go in and mess with the other team. Definitely you could do that. I wouldn't bet the protection of your team on him though. And then we have this one, Masked Soul. Deals heavy special damage to one enemy, applies total blind and nightmares to one enemy. This is good control. Total blind is very good control. You could do this to take one guy and make sure he's not going to be able to hit anybody that around. Pretty good stuff here. You're also giving him nightmares. It's decent damage, but he doesn't really have the strength to really hurt somebody badly. It's really a nice throw-in. The reason I took that is for the total blind. You do like the idea of being able to shut somebody down, at least, in terms of attacking somebody for a round. So that's a pretty good one right there. And then we have this one, Anonymous Gift. Deals low dark damage to all enemies, applies total damage reduction to all enemies, applies nightmares to all enemies. So you're going to do a little bit of damage to them. That's kind of like a mosquito bite, right? But it's going to give them total damage reduction. It means if they use an attack that actually does damage, the damage will be 0. If the attack has an effect on it, then the effect is going through. This is basically to protect the team from damage. So that's what that is, right? And of course, it's on the attacker. So if they use something that has a torture effect, the torture effect's going to do damage, right, over time. The actual attack will do 0 damage, assuming it actually does stuff. But again, the effect's going to get through, so it's not really control. It's more support. You're protecting the base health of your team by using this. You're also giving them a torture effect, right? Nightmares. Not the best, but it's a good throw-in. And finally, Hestia Flame. Deals low special damage to one enemy, applies burn, ignite, and nightmares to one enemy. Alright, now this one up here does a lot more damage, but again, he doesn't really have a lot of strength going his way, not a lot of power. So this one's going to get total blind, it's got a little, but it also throws in nightmares. This one piles up 3 torture effects, assuming none of them are resisted or they're immune to them. This is all kinds of nasty right here. And I wanted to hang on to this in case you run into somebody who is dodging group attacks or something like that. This is really going to mess one individual up because they're going to have 3 torture effects eating away at them. Even though it's a low damage, I like this one more. And as I said, I really couldn't work in the extra turn one. I mean, I'd love to have it because this one is a 3-round cooldown. This one's a 2-round. Are there any others? Okay, that's the only one. That's a 3-round cooldown, the rest of them are 2s. So if he gets his cooldowns activated, well, he's going to be charging for 2 turns, which kind of sucks. Unless, of course, you want to prevent that by taking Remember Me. And probably substitute it for this one. But I did want some kind of a control. That's the reason I kept that. And in terms of his runes, okay, well, you know, his life isn't really very good, but the fact that he's immune to torture effects is very good for him. So I wouldn't worry about his life. Strength, he's not going to do damage anyway. Speed, right across the board. I mean, you could make an argument for him for a little bit of support speed because, like I said, he's not going to be my control, but you do want to have some speed on him. I could see somebody saying, okay, I want to put all support speed on him so that he makes the primary denial faster, but also makes himself kind of faster too, right? He doesn't have to get out ahead of everybody. If the denial goes and does its job, then he can just sprinkle them with really bad things. So this is Svart. He's actually pretty darn good. He's got some interesting stuff. Nothing crazy, but he's definitely going to do some damage and he's going to mess with the other side. And of course, I cannot point out how important that immunity to torture effects is. Especially for Mythics, that is very useful. Anyway, thank you very much for your attention. I really appreciate it. And play games because games are fun. See ya.